Zach asks, what are singings? I take it, has some friends, Amish friends, that go to singings and talk about them, and he was just wondering what they're like. So I will try to answer that for you, Zach. Singings are basically a gathering for the youth in an Amish community. So in Amish communities, mine in particular, at the age of 16, you can begin to hang around with the youth. Some of the other communities, it might be more towards 17, 16 and a half. Just kind of varies from community to community. Singings take place Sunday evening, usually when, since they have churches at their house, usually the person who hosted the church that Sunday will also host the singing. I have never been to a singing, so I have no experience with them. I don't know that I can share all the details with you guys. In our community, there was basically two different groups, where there was the group that would kind of, once they turned 16, once they were in Rumspringa, they still dressed Amish, still drove horse and buggy. They wouldn't get cars. They wouldn't typically drink. And then you had the wild youth, what they were called the wild youth or the car youth, who got cars. They didn't dress Amish anymore. They went out and partied, and I was part of that youth. So I never attended a singing, although they did happen in our community. From what I gather, singings are basically, you show up, like I said, in the evening, on a Sunday evening, and the youth would just sing. I'm not sure if they actually had dinner. They might have had dinner. I'm pretty sure they would have snacks, if nothing else. Yeah, and they would just sing hymns, basically. In our community, it was mostly English, hymns in English, maybe some German hymns in there. The boys would sit on one side and the girls on the other, and someone would choose a song and then volunteer to lead in singing. I think that would have been a great opportunity for any strapping young Amish lad to then ask a girl out for the following weekends. In other more stricter communities, I've heard that you would go to the singing, and then after the singing, is when you would have your date, if you did have a date. So you would, at that evening, you would ask a girl to have a date with you. Typically, I think you would get your buddies to ask her, and then if she agreed, you would go get your horse and buggy. You would pull up to the door, close to the door, I'm not sure. She would hop in, you would take her to her house, and then you would spend basically the night there. Not necessarily sleep together, but you would sit in her living room and talk all night till 12, 1, 2 in the morning. Sometimes in some communities, maybe 4. This is kind of, I think, where bundling might happen, where some of the Schwarzenegger communities actually might spend the night in bed together. It's a really weird thing. I don't know exactly how it all works. I've just heard people talking about it. But yeah, you would actually fully clothed just hug each other all night until early morning. You would hop in your horse and buggy and you would head home. That is in kind of the more extreme communities. It's just so weird to me. But yeah, typically, in those communities, you would just take her home. You would sit in the living room with your date and talk and chat, and then you would get out and go home and try to get a few hours of sleep before you had to go work on the farm the next day. So I also have a video on how we dated in the wild youth or car youth. I'll put a link, I'll put a thing up here, and I will also put a link in the description box below. That is all I know about singings. They do happen on Sunday nights. Somebody's hosting it, a bunch of youth come together, they sing, probably snack. If they don't eat dinner, I'm not sure. Even if they eat dinner, they probably have snacks. And then in our community, they would just head home. But in other communities, that is when you would begin your date, Sunday evening till early Monday morning. And from what I hear, if one of your buddies had a date, you would go over to where he's at with his girl at her house, and it would be the perfect opportunity to pull pranks on him. You would pull his buggy wheels off, or you would hide his horse's harness, or, I've heard of people parking the buggy next to a fence, taking the wheel off, putting the axle through the fence, putting the wheel back on. It or you know, putting something inside the buggy that's weird, or I don't know, whatever you can think of. That's just when it happened. That's when the pranks were pulled, I guess. That's when you did it. Like I said, never went to a singing. I think that's kind of how it went down. So I'm CJ. This is the Amish Potato. We will see you next time.